to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Thank you so much for joining us on this 13th day of September. Almost the middle of the month already. Wait, the time is just flying. The time is just flying. All right, full casting this morning. Wendell will join us shortly. Richard will also join us shortly. Ruben has joined already. Paul Richards is in. I saw him having a conversation with the president of the republic on news this morning. I said, look at him giggle. But anyway, but good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get straight into the WTs, see what's happening on the highways and the byways. All right. So we got some figures here. Road, Maloney, Piaco. There is an accident, a minor accident, westbound Churchill Roosevelt Highway by Piaco Lights. Prince City towards Huey, then pretty much clear until you get to the interchange. You step on the brake a little bit, but by swim call is where you're going to get your traffic. Going through McCoy and Pageant, also got some traffic. Let's take a look at the Solo and San Fernando. Let's see. Got nothing to tell you in San Fernando. Freeport towards Sugar Guanas, you've got some traffic. And Charlieville to the interchange, you've got some as well. All right. That's your traffic update. Let's get into weather, see what's happening. Let me just check the temps. Whoa, it is warm already. 27 degrees at Piaco International Airport, 29 at Crown Point in Tobago. And the Met office is saying, just as we thought, it's a warm one this morning. Predominantly hot, sunny, slightly hazy despite the isolated shower. There's a low 20% chance of the odd heavier shower or thunderstorm favoring western and hilly areas of Trinidad during the afternoon. Mostly fair but warm night. Yeah, boy, last night was warm. Of course, maximum forecast temperature predicted will be 34 at Piaco and 32 at Crown Point in our sweet sister Isle of Tobago. Let's say good morning going out to Oliver Warren, Doreen Pierre, or D. Pierre. Morning to you. Sending Oliver Manwaran is sending greetings to his wife, Lisa, as they celebrate 25 years of marriage. 25. Who needs the award? Oliver or Lisa? Pauline Buckmeyer, good morning. Wendy and James. Marcio Rock, good morning. Have a great day as well. Vernon Clark. Carol Guevara, Wagwan, Karen Yipnow, morning to you. Ms. Maloney Doodoo, good morning. Hey, Scorpion Pepper, haven't heard from you in a long time, so good morning to you as well. Of course, you can send us a message as well on YouTube. We're working on a different thing, so you like that one for sure. You will. Anyway, Chef Paul Richard, good morning.
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Paul. What's happening?
I'm all right. Wednesday. This week is taking long.
I find it flying.
I need a haircut.
You have no hair, Paul. Your hair is like a millimeter in length.
That's the way I like to keep it.
That's the way. I like it. Ooh, gosh, if I sing, I make millions. Yes, that's the way I like it. I just had a haircut the other day, so I'm good. But yes, good morning to you all. It is a warm
one. You have a full head of hair. I don't.
Well, that's true. I do have a full head of hair.
I have a bald patch.
You do. Ruben, do you know? Ruben has his head.
You know, ironically, my brothers don't have bald patches.
Really?
No, this is the oddest thing. But then they also don't have my striking good looks, so I guess it balanced off. I was joking.
Let me do this. Yes, let me do this. Here we go. Let me do this.
What's that though? Anyway,
You
good morning to everyone.
Having a
good morning so far. Hope you're okay. Hope you're up and healthy. Hope you're feeling energized and ready to face the day.
Did
I
you
know
see
many of you,
that?
thousands of you are stuck in traffic,
Yeah, boy.
and
Traffic is heavy
it
coming
can be
into
frustrating at times, but just, I always say use the traffic to kind of meditate while keeping your eyes on the road and focus on, your thoughts of a productive day and keeping your spirits high and stuff like that. So
Did you see that bright light in the sky at 7:19?
let me tell you something. Let me tell you. I went for my normal evening walk run, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was coming back from the run, and I was in Orangway Savannah. So it was a very clear night,
Mm-hmm.
and I was heading south, looking at Orangway's villas. And I saw this big bright light go across the sky. I actually thought it was somebody put up some kind of starlight or some sort of thing they put up in the air, but it was so bright and it was yellow and blue and made an arc across the sky.
Yeah.
And then it lasted about 4 or 5 seconds and disappeared. But I said it was kind of high for a starlight or one of those things they shoot up into the sky. But I paid it no mind, only to hear this morning when I looking at the news that it was a meteor.
Well, the St. Lucia News is saying that the meteor seen falling from the night sky was a Starlink 30167, a satellite from
It's a satellite.
yeah,
Oh,
which was launched in July 28th this year. Starlink 30167 was part of a group of 22 internet satellites launched on Falcon 9 rocket, and blah, blah, blah. So that's what they said. It was seen in a few places, Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia. I didn't see it. And the funny thing, I was just like outside.
I said, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
I thought it was
outside.
a starlight or one of those things, projectors you shoot up into the air to bright. I forget the name. I don't know why it's not coming to me now.
Yeah, I was outside for like 5 minutes before that. I went to check on the bees.
What you call it? The thing that they shoot up into the air to get people's attention, like if you're lost at sea.
A flare.
A flare. I thought it was a flare.
Either that or the Batman signal.
Yeah, I thought it was somebody shot a flare up into the sky for some reason. People like to do those things.
Yeah.
But then I paid it no mind. But it lasted about 4 or 5 seconds, and I went into an arc and was going down. I said, didn't think it was a satellite.
Got a lot of videos. I think Ms. Maloney just sent me a video across the night.
Yeah, so people with dash cams, like they got it when they were driving and just roll across their dash cam when they were driving east, seemingly in the Beetham Highway or maybe the foreshore or something. But it was such a clear night too.
Yeah.
And hot. God, it was hot.
I tell you, the water coming out. So we have tanks, and the water coming out, it's like I want it colder.
You don't need your water heater these days. Let's just say that.
You don't need that at all, but the water is
you can
so
leave the
warm.
water heater off, and the water is warm.
The water is so
Jennifer,
warm.
good morning. Jennifer said she saw it. Apparently, was my comment. Jennifer was a satellite, a link.
So yeah. Let me pull up that Starlink number and see what I get. There's something.
Somebody said, Karen said, sing, Steve, we need the rain. I agree.
Love, exciting and new. Come aboard.
Good morning to Wendell Stephen, who is in the city of love.
Yeah, he's in a love city. I want to know who he went with. I want to know. I'm just saying.
Sad news yesterday.
Oh no.
Really sad news. Apparently, 2 police officers had some sort of dispute, and one pulled a gun on the other and shot him. A female shot a male and then shot herself. They both died, unfortunately. Really sad news. I keep asking if they're getting counseling in that police service, or regular counseling. They say they get counseling, but I don't know how regular it is. So woman police constable Josette Marshall, who was attached to the police admin building, and a male companion, acting Corporal Dwight Skeet, are both now deceased. Skeet was attached to the court and process department. There's no official motive, but police believe the incident may have been as a result of a domestic dispute between the two.
Yeah.
It was at Edinburgh 500. Commissioner of Police has put out an audio expressing sadness at the event, and the families are being attended to by the victim and wellness support unit, and condolences have been passed on to the families and I guess and their colleagues. Not the first time we've heard about this kind of situation. That's why people who have firearms legally, particularly in the protective services, need to be debriefed often to me to make sure they're stable enough. You know, remember years ago we heard about this police love triangle.
Yeah.
And one officer putting the gun on another.
Yes. Ooh, your memory is good.
That's quite a sad development. I don't know. The residents of the area heard the gunshot or shots, and they called the police. And the police went into the house and found the bodies in the corridor, of course, with the gun, quite possibly closer to the female officer's hand.
Yeah. Apparently, for what I heard on news when I listened to this morning, they were in a 2-year common relationship, and they had a fallout. And he went back to the house of his former, in which he has a child with, and they were supposed to meet up yesterday to have a little chat. And that's what happened. Apparently, she was visibly upset. Apparently she was upset. She did apply for leave from the TTPS, but was denied leave. So that was
it speaks to a need for more randomized psychometric testing from officers, because it's a stressful job. And I'm sorry, once you are issued an FUL and a weapon in the protective services, I think there should be randomized debriefing to make sure they're all right.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in the second year of my PhD, you have to go through something called disposition. Third year, sorry, something called disposition. And they're so careful in these American universities, and you sit down with 3 professors, and they ask you how you're coping, and if this is too stressful for you, and they ask you a series of questions about 45 minutes, and then they make a determination as to if you should continue in the program. If the program is having an adverse effect on you, if it's too stressful for you, and if you should be allowed to continue. It's called disposition. And if you don't, if they think that you shouldn't continue and it's stressing you out, they either give you some time off, which is what happens in most cases, and you get another debriefing, or they just take you to the program completely because it's having a really adverse effect on your health. And I think a similar situation should happen to any officer in the protective services who has an FUL and a weapon issued by the institution or privately.
Yeah.
And it should be randomized. I mean, people can walk in to get counseling on their own, but they tend not to. Because when you ask the question about how many officers were debriefed in the last year, it's always a really, really small percentage of the overall police body kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask something that just occurred to me. Have we gotten any official update on the persons involved in the gun that went missing from the army some months ago?
No. You know, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually thought about that on the weekend. The last I recall, wasn't it found in Belmont?
The gun was retrieved. I think an
So
officer
what
or a
happened
couple of
after that?
officers were being interviewed. And I
Yeah,
know
that was
the Civil Defense Force, the Army, has its own internal disciplinary mechanism.
mm-hmm.
But I don't think we've heard, well, I haven't heard any update on that situation. If somebody was court-martialed, who was held responsible, if the systems, because we spoke to Gavin here, if the systems were reviewed, if gaps were found in the system that were fixed. We've heard nothing. It just went to one of those old
9-day
stories.
wonder. They work on this 9-day wonder, you know. Just not say anything. In 9 days, they'll forget.
Scorpion Pepper, it's Andrews University. Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Brenda Isaac, those spring. Now is the best time to go river. Go river waters are very cool.
Okay, boy. No, I ain't go beach. Or no, long
And Zena and Lincoln, we're opening the phones at 6:30, as we've done in the past, for you to call and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Billy Bob, good morning. Locked on.
So
Brenda Isaac.
in 8 minutes, at 6:30 every morning, we will open the phone lines for you to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Kazim Mohammed, good morning. Central needs water. A lot of people. I wonder if Penal got water yet. Winston Jones, good morning. Jennifer Moore, Wayne B. Miss Ingrid in Tucson, Arizona. Ingrid Adams out in Brooklyn says it's a rainy morning. Oh, I didn't give you all temps. Right. Yes.
Yeah, we haven't heard any update on that, but
yeah,
we'll see. We shall see. So condolences to the families of those officers and colleagues of the officers who died in that what seems to be a murder-suicide yesterday. It's really unfortunate. Prosecutors are requesting the revocation of bail of the Laramine businessman who is accused of making methamphetamines.
Mm-hmm.
Prosecutors argued that Mr. Hong Fei-Wu, 24 years old, breached the condition of bail. He was supposed to stay resident in a Laramine address that he gave the court. He was granted $100,000 bail on August 15th. But the police are saying that residence, the address provided, remained unoccupied since March. So if he is not there, he breached the bail conditions. I can't confirm or refute it, so I don't know. Minister of National Security, when he spoke to us last time, he implied that the man may have fled the country. The minister has been talking about bail issue for a while. He's of the view that some people should just not get bail. I don't know why. And the courts are saying that when the police bring poor evidence, so the people get bail or poor arguments. So we'll see. He's supposed to go back to court soon, but the prosecutors, I guess the police prosecutors, are suggesting he should not be, that his bail be revoked. We see how that goes. Imagine you making allegedly methamphetamines in the country. Is that the person who was the places that was in the residences, that complex, that situation? I think it's in the residences. I think the police, we congratulated the police on that find. So you're making methamphetamine for the purpose of trafficking. Those are the charges anyway. You know? And in Jamaica, a really tragic or startling event took place. A nationwide 90.0 FM, which is located in Kingston, I think Bradley Avenue, St. Andrews. Some gunman drove up on a motorcycle and fired shots at the radio station building. I was at a company here once where that happened also on more than one occasion.
I remember that. I remember that.
Traumatic.
Also in international news, Paul, there's a sad one. More than 5,300 people have died after floods in the Libyan city of Derna.
What's going on in the world?
That's a question I really don't know.
The earthquake, in
flooding.
I saw a tsunami somewhere. Now I try to make sense of, because some of the things are old. There people like to circulate old stuff. Steve got.
Clear your throat, Depot.
Yes, Steve got. Like some people like to circulate old stuff as if it's new because they get so excited. So sometimes you don't know what is fact from fiction, old from new, because some people like call no name, Steve can't. Excuse me, I have a cough this morning. Like to constantly send out old stuff. So you don't know what new from what old, because they just get it on the phone and they circulate it like, oh my God, excited. Ooh. So we have a rule in the news group. If Steve can sends it, please vet it 3 times. Not once, not twice, 3 times, a lady. Because Steve can does not check the date stamp on these things. So be careful when Steve can send something to you. So, but we know the earthquake is recent. Am I lying?
1,000 dead.
Am I lying?
With the earthquake?
Am I being unfair to you?
With the earthquake, no.
Right. It was right with the earthquake, but then we had the news already, but I appreciate it.
Earthquake.
We had flooding. There was a video of a tsunami that I don't know if it's new or old. I think it's old because the big news networks around the world didn't pick it up.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on in the world.
I don't know.
Raina Jennings, is it the tsunami that you saw on Al Jazeera? Is it new? Is it recent? I don't know. Yes, Eden, Mother Nature seems to be in full retaliatory mode for all the atrocities with these human beings doing on this planet.
Yeah.
It's just so much happening.
And Mother Earth is retaliating.
And just really hundreds of lives and thousands of lives lost in one go. I think the death count, what's the death count in that earthquake situation?
Over 2,000.
In Morocco now.
Yeah, over 2,000.
And so many can't be found yet because rescuers cannot get to the locations because the places are too much boulders and stuff. It's just such a difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
And we here bickering and fighting when we're so blessed in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Bickering and fighting. All right. Good morning to Zena and Lincoln. The phone lines are open. You can join the conversation now.
Mm-hmm.
Since you chastise us, we listen. But we've done this months ago already, not so, Steve?
Yeah.
And nobody calls. Right?
And of course, the debate continues on this, which we have never heard before, with Miss Great, or what it is.
Oh.
The Venezuelan that won this competition.
Yeah. Well,
that has
the amount of drama behind the scenes. They should have put a camera behind the scenes and have a soap opera with that pageant.
Well, nobody knew about it.
One of the contestants dropped out because she said she was treated badly by the organizer. She wasn't feeling well, and the schedule was so rough. She fainted, and nobody took her on. And let me tell you,
nobody knew about the competition before.
Well, true, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I got the pictures.
The Miss World local franchise distanced herself from it.
Yeah. She has.
It is said the Venezuelan woman who won has been here for 6 years, but when they asked her a question, she couldn't answer, and they had to have a translator, and they repeat the question, and she answered kind of way. So how she could represent Trinidad and Tobago? So I guess we could ask the question this morning if we have more information, because they also put out the list of prerequisites. You want to read them? You have them. I think you sent them to us.
Yeah, it is. Let me just get it here.
Yeah, they have been, which means you have to have been a national in the country for a number of years.
Yeah.
So she would have had to qualify it. Well, I presume the organizer has not that a response that she didn't qualify and they crowned her. So, and it was also some males win the competition.
Yeah. So here are the requirements: unmarried with no and childless. Morning, Richie Rich. Glad you could join us.
Good morning, guys.
natural born female, and must be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, between 18 and 29 years of age, to remain 29 years of age on coronation night, minimum height of 168 centimeters, familiar with Trinidad and Tobago in several matters such as culture, traditions, politics, trade, environment, and so on, has good moral character, has not been convicted of any crimes, has not participated in any obscene exhibitions, whether print, stage, televisions, or movies. I'll come to that point in a second. Has not engaged in prostitution or any other form thereof, must hold a valid passport which does not expire before April 2024. Now, this point has not participated in any obscene exhibitions, whether print, stage, television, or movies. Well, the young lady has an OnlyFans page.
And
Does she?
She does. And I got some pictures.
Does that mean automatically that she's participating in obscene stuff?
Well, say obscene exhibitions. You want me to send it? No, you shouldn't. I have some pictures from the OnlyFans.
You know what I don't understand about this entire situation?
You never heard about the competition before?
This girl entered the competition. She won a competition to represent a place that she's living now. And all of a sudden, there is this demonizing of the girl. And people making all of these disparaging comments about her and saying all sorts of things about her. She entered a competition that the organizers would have said, you are valid to enter. She went through the process and she won. The only people that really have any objection really is the other contestants if they felt she wasn't valid. And if it is that they felt there was something wrong with her in entering the competition, they should have raised the objection. And all of a sudden, it becomes this uproar on social media, bringing out the nastiest part of the Trinidad and Tobago psyche in terms of the kind of comments I've seen against this girl who did nothing but enter a competition.
I also saw a video.
Since when have we become so ugly at people?
I've also seen a video that she filmed during carnival time. Let me tell you. This girl going to win the competition that I've never heard of. She is going to win.
Yeah, but Steve, you raised an issue, which, you know, what is the issue with an OnlyFans page?
Nothing. Well,
but you raised it.
No,
but you raised it. You raised it right
rules,
after you talked about morality.
If you go with the rules, let me pull it. Oh God, where did I?
But not all OnlyFans pages have what you call salacious stuff. But you raise it as if it's an issue.
I have not participated in any obscene exhibitions.
And you know what is? And you know what is?
But that's what I'm asking you. Have you seen obscene stuff in her OnlyFans page?
I only saw the pictures. I haven't gone to OnlyFans. I don't have it.
So then why did you raise it? To Richard's point.
So they say no obscene exhibitions, whether print, stage, television, or movies.
Right. So as I'm saying, why did you raise it? If you haven't seen.
So the pictures that I saw, I don't know if you want to call it obscene exhibition. I would call it exhibition. But that's as far as I'll go with that.
Should I again ask a question? If you call it exhibition and you don't find it obscene, why did you raise it?
It is not me, the thing, it's the judges.
But it's you raised it.
I raised it, yes. She has an OnlyFans page.
I don't
that I have not gone on.
I don't understand what is the demonizing of this girl.
I said the only reason I didn't want to go further into this is because clearly I would presume that the organizers would have made sure that she was a naturalized Trinidadian or has dual citizenship. We said that yesterday.
Yeah.
You understand? Because it's unthinkable to me that they would have somebody representing this country who doesn't have citizenship of some type.
And that would be their fault, not hers.
Yeah, exactly. So
So I don't know. It just reminds you how human beings can be very ugly.
And
Unless you
if she has valid Trinidad and Tobago citizenship, whether she could speak English properly or not, she has valid Trinidad and Tobago citizenship. None of the prerequisites said she had to be able to speak English properly, because there's some people in Trinidad and Tobago who also can't speak English properly.
It's not good on that road.
Mhm.
So anyway, if nothing else, we know about this obscure competition now.
Exactly. And the competition that you don't even know. It's like, what competition is this?
Yeah.
If nothing else, we now know about this obscure competition.
Yeah. Never heard about it, but okay. Now you know. Now you know it's in Vietnam in October. Eh. Oui, merci.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Norte Braga. Bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour.
How are you guys doing? I was actually trying to listen a bit before I could join, and I heard you all speaking about. Anyway, my manners. Morning, Steve. Morning, Paul. Morning, Richard. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning, listeners all over the globe, especially our listeners and viewers in Paris, where I am now.
Bonjour, bonjour. On va say bonjour, senor, yes.
Hmm. Let me try and find a quiet place. I have to try and find a quiet place.
I like your hat.
Yeah, that's my hat from Praga. Let me see if I can turn around my camera so you could see. I wonder if I could turn this thing around so you could see where I am.
Of course you can.
Hold on.
While you do that,
That's all right.
Papa. In the middle of things, boy.
I'm in the middle of things. You're sure right. I'm in the middle of things. But
Well,
anyway,
now-
good morning, gentlemen. And how's your day going?
not bad. Karan Yip now wants to know how do you say two with slight pepper in French?
How to do what? Sorry.
You want to know how do you say two with slight pepper in French?
You know, there's something. You know, I went doubles. Richard is the Frenchman. Take off his hat.
All I know is de avec. I don't know about slight
I know it's bonjour.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
Is it? Paul said it, Karen. I hope you heard.
No, that's just a line of a song. Lady Marmalade. Anyway, good morning. Bonjour, Wendell. Bonjour.
Morning, guys. Yeah, we're here. Happy to be in the land of the living. Of course, a completely different atmosphere out here. I haven't been to France for a little while. Well, Paris, that is, for a while. I passed through France last time I traveled. But interesting. People like dirt all over the place. People all over. Traffic. It's midday, of course. Yeah. It's 12:37 in the afternoon. Yeah.
In the afternoon.
Yeah. So a lot of people out and about.
That is real good internet there, though.
Yeah.
You need to be much about internet in your suitcase.
Yeah. It's pretty good, eh? Yeah. It's pretty good, eh?
Anyway, it's 20 moving up to
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good internet.
You have to do newspapers.
Let's roll into newspapers
Sure.
for today, September 13th. Let's start with the news day. UNC keen to help curb crime. Cabinet in retreated crews in. Police arrest 2 suspects for Arima robberies. Police want bail of Chinese businessman and meth lab charge revoked. New Tobago Carnival body supports move to Scarborough. Police children for sale in an expose. Cop who lost limb in accident back on beat. Cop kills cop, dies by suicide. That really tragic story in Chaguanas yesterday.
Yeah.
Really unfortunate. Let's move now to the Express Online. Judge to rule on UNC petition next Monday. Families suspect victim like brothers. Families suspect victim like brothers. UNC ready and willing to cooperate, says Kambler. Former nationals hail TNT's latest win. Francis, 29 among 4 new independents. WPC shoots husband and takes her own life. And those are Express trending stories on their website. Let's move now to the Guardian. A picture of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley cruising with Karen Pollard and Dinanath Ramnarine during a working luncheon at cruising in Chaguaramas yesterday. Why the Guardians always stick like that? Right. 2 cops dead in apparent murder-suicide. Woman murdered, husband injured in penal ambush. Criticisms and boos mar Mr. and Miss Grand pageant finals. Venezuelan national wins Miss Grand TNT beauty pageant. Funeral home worker killed outside workplace. New Sando mayor plans to tackle homelessness. Police want meth trafficking accused bail revoked. Venezuelan winner, a shining example of what it means to be Trini. PM meets with Pollard and Ramnarine in cabinet retreat. And woman killed and husband in critical condition. So those are trending stories in your Guardian, Express, and Newsday for today, Wednesday, the 13th of September, 2023. Do you all want to craft a question over this beauty queen controversy?
Yeah, why not? Or we could deal with the issue of the 2 police officers in terms of what is available for police officers, because somehow or the other you only hear about these things when some tragic incident has happened, and this one is indeed very tragic. I could sometimes relate to these incidents, but I will hold my tongue there for now. But maybe we could answer questions surrounding that. Do you think enough is being done for police officers in particular, in terms of the trauma, whatever they experience it? Because somehow you don't hear about that enough. You only hear about it when something happens, and they generally you don't hear about anything else after that. Because this is not the first incident with police officers.
No, it's not. So do you think, what you're trying to say is, do you think that enough is being done in terms of counseling services or something like that? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
So just as an aside, Steve, you just sent a video of the young lady in a carnival costume, right?
Yeah, it was just sent to me.
And that is how thousands of other young women are dressed in Carnival Day anyway.
That's what Carnival. Yeah.
So where's the issue? If that is what is the uproar is on an OnlyFans page, where's the issue? Because that's standard Carnival way now. What I said so there. That is standard Carnival way for thousands of masqueraders. So I know that's supposed to be any eye-raising situation to prohibit her from being able to represent the country, because that is standard Carnival wear. So when you put the OnlyFans page, I thought, unless there's something akin to that I don't know, what is the big fit? Did you be having an OnlyFans page? Anyway, so what's the question this morning?
Well, we're not suggesting with that police.
If enough is being done for members of the TTPS, what is it, Wendell? Regarding counseling?
Yeah. And not just counseling after the fact, but what I think Paul used that term earlier on in terms of how the testing that is done during the time of the session.
Psychological debriefing.
Yeah, things of that nature, that it needs to be done probably on a more regular basis. Because let's face it, police officers come from different all different walks of life where trauma is happening, and domestic trauma too. Because in this case, it's 2 police officers, but in a lot of cases, it's a police officer and a normal civilian. You know?
I've asked the question over and over. It's available to them, because the question has been asked by myself on several occasions. It's available to them, but most don't pick it up because, particularly men, feel they're all right.
Yeah.
And for men generally don't go for counseling because they feel, well, I'm supposed to be tough, I'm supposed to bear it out, and going for counseling is admission of some kind of weakness on my part.
Yes.
But I'm talking about random mandatory debriefing because it's a difficult job.
Yes, it is. It is.
So, I asked specifically about whether police officers involved in exchanges of gunfire and in some cases deaths are automatically debriefed. And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I think once you're involved in a violent confrontation, you should be debriefed.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? So my suggestion for the question is, do you think enough is being done regarding the psychological debriefing of police officers in Trinidad and Tobago? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I'll be up. And come on, move with me. Do you think parliamentarians can put aside their differences to deal with crime in Trinidad and Tobago? That was a poll yesterday, and the results are in. 78% said no. They cannot put aside the differences. All right, this morning's poll, let's get into it. Our question is report to you. Enough is being done regarding psychological debriefing of police officers in Trinidad and Tobago. That's our poll. 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Of course, on YouTube, you can message us yes or no.
So 222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans, toll free 866-525-1099. People in other parts of the planet, 1-868-222-TALK, 222-8255. And of course, you can also send your votes across on the comment section on YouTube, on our YouTube stream. For our poll this morning, and our poll is, do you think enough is being done regarding the psychological debriefing of police officers in Trinidad and Tobago? Of course, this is coming after murder-suicide that took place yesterday. So, do you think enough is being done regarding the psychological debriefing of police officers in TNT? Were both people police officers, Paul?
Yes.
Yes, based on what I saw and read.
Okay. She worked, for what I heard, she worked at the admin building, and he was with the courts.
Yeah.
All right.
Court and process.
Let's go, Grandy. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sandy Grandy. Richard, thank you for your discourse this morning. My answer is yes.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Cliff.
Hey, good morning. From speaking to my sister, who was a police officer, nothing does be done. They don't really do anything in terms of counseling if you shoot somebody and kill somebody or anything like that. It also applies to the nurses after the last 2 years, witnessing hundreds of people dying in every day. They got no counseling for that. So it's something that we need to really talk about. I'm glad you all having the conversation.
But the nurses and doctors, I know for a fact nurses and doctors receive counseling after COVID or during COVID because it was very difficult for them. I know for a fact that was happening.
Winston Jones says yes. Right. All right. 222-8255, toll free North American. Our morning poll once again, Rich.
Do you think enough is being done regarding the psychological debriefing of police officers in Trinidad and Tobago?
And sometimes it's not just for the police officers too. It's for the family too. Their families also, should also be considered for some sort of psychological testing. Not for me, Paul. I see you laughing. I don't need it. I could give.
I just had a blank look on my face.
I see the smoke coming up on your face, you see.
What?
Because you might have thought I added that part so that I could get help myself. But
And even if you're asking for help, that's very, very admirable, sir.
no, but I have sought my own help, don't worry.
And I commend you for that.
That's why I travel a lot now. Remind me to raise something concerning COVID and traveling. It's an observation I've made over the last few months of traveling.
So Billy Bob says no, not enough is being done. Josie Richardson says no. And Winston Jones says yes. Paul? I'm not too sure if he's answering the poll or answering Paul.
Rena Jennings says, Paul, have you not seen the half-naked pictures of contestants that are out there? And this is standard way for Carnival now.
You would think so, eh? For
if we judge based on that, are we judging everybody else based on that? You understand?
What I find, what is all this big hullabaloo over this girl winning some crown? I kind of briefly scanning through it and I seeing a lot of comments on it. What's the problem? They find she too pretty?
Take away the Venezuelan part of it, and I wonder if it would have all this hullabaloo if she wasn't Venezuelan.
But trust me, if she win the crown, I bet you all Trinidadians happy. She represents Trinidad.
One, she has a Trinidad and Tobago national passport. And as I should said, if that is not the case, that's the organizer's fault.
Exactly. If she breached the rules, well, then they have to deal with that.
They didn't do their due diligence, and they let her in.
Yeah.
Yep. And they serve people in parliament here with dual citizenship already, or
Yes, we've done it. We've done it.
All right.
We talked to the person just the other day.
All right, 2228255. Do you think enough is being done regarding the psychological debriefing of police officers in TNT? That's our poll. Yes or no on YouTube? Good morning, Rach Paul. Miss Baloney says no. Miss Ingrid says no to the poll. Carol Guevara says
no. Julia Baptiste, we didn't get Julia. Julia says no.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan
says no. Winston Jones says yes. We got that.
Carol Guevara says no. I'm getting confused. Miss Ingrid says no. The poll, Miss Maloney says no. You what? Rach Paul says good morning. Good morning, you what?
You know what I always remember? I always remember the time that my wife at the time spent at Child Protection Unit. She was one of the first officers in that Child Protection Unit. And I'm telling you, she went through real pressure, having to deal and hear and deal with situations, write up reports, and actually investigate cases surrounding children in this country. It traumatized her so much. She went and sought her own counseling. And she actually wanted out of that unit after a while because of the disturbing things. And I used to be up and down with her, going to pick up children in the night, put them in safe homes. It was a terrible time for her. And I'm sure a lot of the officers in that particular agency, with what they saw and heard that was taking place with children in this country, people don't have the story of what the craziness that adults, big man and woman, doing to children in this place. We sick, And that affected her really bad. I remember that. And she sought counseling for it. I don't know that the police service offered it, but she got.
I was involved in a research project years ago or so, and we had to interview about 300 young people from Serval. And we had initially planned to do it in 3 days, and we had to spread it out to over a week because after a day of listening to those stories, the sad thing about it is how calm the children used to say they're abused because they become so accustomed to it. And we had to take days in between because it became so much to deal with on a daily basis talking to them.
Yes,
this is over 12 years ago.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah.
It is terrible. I'm telling you, all of us in the night, you had to take out places, you had to go and find children. You had to find a safe place to put them. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And I am not a police officer, and I was involved. You understand? Giving her the support she needed at the time.
All right. Sexy San Fernando says no. And also says that secondary schools football starts today. Ronnie Voisin says no. Slick Money Grip says yes. Wayne B says no. Okay. Jonathan MacArthur White says, people don't know half of the issues. Okay.
Jonathan, tell us. I know who Jonathan MacArthur White is. Maybe he could enlighten us a little more. Morning, Jonathan. How are you? I'm glad to know that you're listening and watching us. But did they report on the circumstances surrounding this particular incident? Was there a report on it?
They said that they're working on an official motive, but they believe the initial report indicates it may have been a domestic incident.
How do they know the order of the murder-suicide? Was that something that someone was there? Was there a witness to it or whatever?
Well, I don't know if they saw the gun closer to somebody's hand or gunpowder residue on somebody's hand, but they said the suggestion is that the woman shot the man and then shot herself.
Okay.
So maybe they saw gunpowder residue on her hand.
Okay, to determine she was the person who shot.
Yeah.
Who used the firearm. Okay.
And maybe the way the wound on her was as opposed to the wound on him.
Okay. Whose firearm was it? Did they say?
No, they didn't say.
No, they didn't.
When the police have enough experience to know who would have done the shooting based on stuff like the gunshot residue, the entry point to the wounds, etc.
Yeah. Because I haven't heard you all said it, but I think I read somewhere one of those, those things people send for you all the time, that she would have called somebody to say that she just shot him and she's going to shoot herself. Well, is that part of the story?
No.
Okay. I read that somewhere though.
I'm just going based on what the police report said. I don't take on more on social media.
Yeah, well, that's what I was asking if that was mentioned this morning in your discourse.
This is the best connection we've ever had with you in your entire.
No lie.
And I'm sitting in a corridor here. And if you've seen the lights flickering on and off, a lot of Europe has these motion detector lights in corridors. So that's the light you're seeing flickering. It's either it's going off and sometimes it's going on depending on how I move.
I'm suspecting you have not checked into your room yet.
No, I've not. I have to wait.
You being with us. You have to wait to check in.
Yeah, I have to wait. So my son went out to get something to eat. The restaurants are all right around the area, so he walked out to get something to eat.
They don't make joke with check-in and check-out time in European hotels.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
5 minutes extra in a room mean 400 more euros.
I just had to spend 10 euros to put two luggages in a luggage room. They ain't keeping it for free,
No, there's nothing for free out there. Nothing. I know what I mean. Nothing.
Nothing. He's 18 now, so we could talk that talk around him.
Also, you're exposing him to the world. You're giving him the father-son tour.
Well, trust me, if he gets it from his mother too, if you know his mother, he would have gotten that already. But he gets it from me. He gets more practical experience from me. His mother wouldn't like some of the things I would be telling him.
And as a father, you know what you have to tell him.
Oh, yes. For the folks who sending me messages on the phone, though, I'm actually using my phone to do the program, so I can't read the messages at the same time, right? So I'm seeing messages flashing across, but I can't read them. for the folks who sending me information on the matter.
All right, well, gentlemen, we got to run into our major news, so let's do that right now. Of course, Evie is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
TTPS confirms 2 officers were involved in a deadly shooting in Chaguanas on Tuesday in what appears to be a murder-suicide. One criminologist says radical group lures people into operations by giving them a sense of belonging. Police call for the bail of meth trafficking accused to be revoked, and Kim Jong-un heads home after Putin toasts North Korean friendship. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Afril Sentil-Bab. Good morning. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has confirmed that 2 officers were involved in a deadly shooting in Chaguanas in what appears to be a murder-suicide. They have been identified as woman police constable Josette Marshall, attached to the police administration building, and her male companion, acting corporal Dwight Skeet, attached to the court and process department, both located in Port of Spain. No motive has yet been identified for the incident. At 2:24 p.m. on Tuesday, officers from the Community Police Department Central Division were on patrol in the Edinburgh 500 Chaguanas area when they were alerted by a resident that there was a shooting incident at the corner of Opal and Kestrel Boulevard. The officers responded along with officers at the Homicide Bureau, and when they arrived at the address, they found the bodies of a woman and man lying in a corridor of the house. Both were unresponsive and appeared to bear gunshot wounds. Officers attached to the Homicide Bureau are continuing investigations. Meanwhile, Commissioner of Police Earl Haywood Christopher has expressed deep sadness following the incident. In an audio recording, the head of the TTPS said officers attached to the Homicide Bureau are continuing investigations. Commissioner Haywood Christopher said that the TTPS will continue to provide updates. She said the Victim and Witness Support Unit will extend its services to the affected families.
Officers attached to the Homicide Bureau are continuing investigations, and we will extend the services of our Victim and Witness Support Unit to the affected families and colleagues. I extend my deepest condolences and support to the officers and their families and to all their fellow officers in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We will continue to provide updates on the incident as the investigation proceeds and more information becomes available.
The police have applied to revoke the bail that was granted to a 24-year-old Chinese national. Hong Fei Wu stands accused of methamphetamine trafficking. During his first court appearance on August 15th, he was granted $100,000 bail by senior magistrate Amina Dion-Orinsing. However, when the case came up for hearing yesterday, police prosecutor acting Corporal Gervais made an oral application for the bail to be revoked for breaching the conditions set by her. Corporal Gervais claimed that although Wu stated that he resides and will continue to reside in Gulfview, La Romaine for the duration of the case, investigations revealed that the property has been unoccupied since March. Wu's lawyer, Larry Williams, made an application to vary bail conditions related to his address. According to Williams, after his first court appearance, his client's address was published by the TNT Police Service. Williams said that his client had already signed a lease for an apartment in Marabella. He claimed that he could not respond directly to the claims over the property his client claimed to be living at until the TTPS files a written application and provides evidence. Williams also claimed that his client was concerned with comments made by National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines about the case. Extremist groups have been unable to recruit persons into their operations, or rather have been able to recruit persons into their operations by making them feel comfortable, especially when such individuals are struggling in terms of employment, financially and emotionally. It's a point that was highlighted by criminologist Dr. Melissa Neptune Figaro while being interviewed on the Power Breakfast program on Power 102 Digital on Tuesday morning. Dr. Neptune Figaro said giving young people a sense of belonging was another aim of radical organizations such as Al-Qaeda to help enroll persons into their membership.
They play on their emotions as well. The internal process of ISIS was basically something that was so strategic and to place young persons in a position where they felt like this is the hope I am looking for. I have no job. I have to always indulge in this type of behavior, but best I do it for a purpose. And they stated their purpose. Their purpose was to help others, to make sure that their organization was doing what is good for the people of the world.
It was suggested by the criminologist that such developments underscore the importance of always connecting with young people and trying to help them achieve their full potential.
Assisting an individual. So they use this as a platform to garner young persons who would have felt like they needed to do more. They didn't really have much going on physically, financially, emotionally, in our country. And so we had to look at what were cracks in our society and how we actually failed young persons moving forward, and especially in the past.
The MV Emprendedora commenced operations on Tuesday to replace the MV Cabo Star, which is undergoing repairs. The Trinidad and Tobago Inter-Island Transportation Company says the MV Emprendedora will be taking construction material, trucks, vans, trailers, containers, and other cargoes to and from Tobago. This vessel will take cargo only. Passengers will be accommodated on the passenger ferries. It was expected to sail at 2 p.m. today from Port of Spain and about 4 a.m., or rather 2 p.m. yesterday from Port of Spain and 4 a.m. today from Tobago. These times are likely to change after the sailing time of the vessel is observed and also the loading from Tobago is assessed. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Further afield, Kim Jong-un's summit with Vladimir Putin at a cosmodrome in Russia's Far East has finished. Putin says Kim will visit other sites in Russia before crossing back into North Korea on his armored train. After dinner at the summit, the Russian leader toasted Kim's health and two countries' friendships. Kim earlier said, quote, "We will always support the decisions of President Putin and we will be together in the fight against imperialism," end quote. Putin says Russia will help North Korea build satellites after the North failed twice this year to launch them. The leaders will not discuss the risk of nuclear war, a Kremlin spokesman added. Well, finally, here's weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, predominantly hot, sunny, and slightly hazy despite the isolated shower. There's a low chance of the odd heavier shower or thunderstorm favoring western and hilly areas of Trinidad during the afternoon. Mostly fair but warm night. Gusts and street flooding are possible in the event of a heavy downpour. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of another sweltering 34 degrees Celsius day to day at Piarco International Airport and 32 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 30 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 29 at Crown Point. Wear cool clothing today, people. Finally, let's recap your headlines to 7 o'clock. TTPS confirms 2 officers were involved in a deadly shooting in Chaguanas on Tuesday in what appears to be a murder-suicide. One criminologist says radical groups lure people into their organizations by giving them a sense of belonging. Police call for the bail of meth trafficking accused to be revoked, and Kim Jong-un heads home after Putin toasts North Korean friendship. I'm Avril Sintilbab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right, up to date, incredible. That's us. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You can join her again coming up at 8 a.m. for our news brief, and then with Sir Charles at noon for major news once again. All right, quickly, 10 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock, let's take a look what's happening on the highways and in the byways. This morning, San Fernando, you got some traffic as you head towards Princess Town and towards Pina. Traffic, traffic going to what's that road? It's called Golaconda Connector Road is heavy. The Super Road is heavy. Solo, let's see. You're going to get a little bit of traffic. River Road is heavy. Leaving Coover, headed toward Chase Village, heavy. A little bit of traffic by Chase Village from Charlieville. Where you're going to pick up most of your traffic. Leaving Chaguanas toward Chin Chin Road, also busy. St. Helena, Piaco, from Caroni, Ibis Gardens to Curep, from Maloney straight up towards UE, and then from Curep straight into Port of Spain, Eastern Main Road, just as heavy. Going up Lady Young Road, out of Maraval and Dago, still heavy. Lower Santa Cruz, you've got some traffic there as well. All right. All right, let's get back into our show and see what else we got for votes. I got Ish out in Malik saying no. And that's all I have extra for you. Yeah, that's it. Who's got a result?
Well, we had 16 people voting on the poll this morning in the allotted time. Do you think enough is being done regarding the psychological debriefing of police officers in TNT? 16 of you have voted. 11 of you said no, you don't think enough was being done. And 5 of you said yes, enough is being done. So that's 16 in all. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day, throughout programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow, which will be Thursday morning, because today is Wednesday and it's midweek already.
Yes, indeed it is. You know, and of course, as I said, a very sad situation out there in Morocco. They're still finding people. You know, I think the death toll has reached over 3,000.
Oh, is that 3 now? Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. Really, really sad. You know?
Libya also had some flooding, and they said over 5,000 people are dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really, really sad. Really, really sad.
What's going on in the world? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Across the poll. Paul, you muted.
Do we have 2 guests at the same time?
I'll tell you.
We're talking to Tobago this morning, so we're going to be talking to Dr. Maria Dillon-Remy and also Janice James, both of whom are, of course, from Tobago, and about Tobago autonomy. And the other issue is related to Tobago. Good morning, Dr. Dillon-Remy. Good morning to Dr. James.
This is Senator Dr. The Honorable, right?
That's right.
All right. Morning, Senator.
Are you hearing me? Good morning.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Morning, Senator.
Morning, Senator Richards. Good morning, Wendell.
Morning.
Good morning, Dr. James.
Morning,
yes.
Maria, Paul, everyone.
Yes, we have to fix Dr. James's handle also too on the screen. Dr. James. Morning, Dr.
That's good enough for me, Wendell.
Sorry?
That's great for me. What you have there is exactly correct.
Okay, all right, Dr. James.
No, I know Dr. Dillon has a very short time with us, so if we could start with her. And we want to talk about Tobago autonomy because it's come up again recently with Mr. Augustine, the Chief Secretary. And I know Dr. Dillon sat on the committee, the GST related to the bills. And I want to start with the question about what do you think needs to happen to move this forward? What do you think, first of all, were the stumbling blocks in the last attempt, and what needs to happen to move this process forward?
Okay. Thanks for having me on your show this morning. I think, well, the committee, the Joint Select Committee, presented its report to the House in July of 2021. And during the debate on the proposed bills, there was I would put it a walkout by the UNC for reasons that I'm not clear on that I can speak about. But and then the bill just it lapsed in this, not lapsed. They didn't continue the debate, and since then it has not come back to the House, but it has been rolled over. So for the 4th session of this Parliament, it is possible to have that bill debated. Now, what are some of the issues were that when the bill when it came to Tobago, there were many areas that the Tobago parties did not agree with, and they also said that they did not have enough time between the final decisions. In other words, the bill was presented, and then there were amendments made, and then they didn't have enough time between that presentation in April before the bill was presented to discuss in Tobago before the bill was presented to Parliament in July when it was presented. And as a result, so there was some in the opposition. It was then the PDP and also other parties in Tobago, not the PNM. The PNM in Tobago said they were very happy with the bill as it was. So that came to a halt at that point in time. Now, if it has to, as it has to go back, as far as I'm concerned, it has to go back. It has to be debated. Then Tobago will have the opportunities to put in the amendments that they would like to see. Now, when the bill was presented before, there were amendments recommended by the PDP then, in Mr. Farley Augustine and Mr. Ho-Choi Charles. They presented to the Parliament things that they would like to see changed in that bill, but there was never an opportunity for those to be presented to the House. So if the bill has to be debated, and I think it should be, then as far as I'm concerned, the push has to come from Tobago. It will not come from Trinidad. And I'm saying that because we have the history of what is going on within the House right now. This bill requires constitutional amendment, which means that they have to have the UNC support in the House. Currently, what is going on right now, unless the UNC supports the whatever is presented to the Parliament and whatever amendments that are made, this will not get to the Senate. It will not get passed. So my understanding is that it has to be pushed from Tobago. Now, what in the before the election in Tobago in 2021, there was a lot of talk about the autonomy bill. When the PDP won, they said they had put the Deputy Chief Secretary, then Mr. Duke, to deal with that aspect of the bill, of his functioning in Tobago, that he should deal with trying to negotiate so that this bill what Tobago wants could be obtained. But that never happened, as far as I'm aware, at least never happened publicly. In fact, I wrote something on it in 2020, I think in 2022, when the PDP launched in Trinidad. I said, well, what is happening to the Tobago Autonomy Bill? We've heard nothing about it, but the PDP is expanding in Trinidad. What is happening to the Tobago Bill? So far, the only thing I'm aware of is what people say at specific times, like when a budget is being debated. But no, as far as I'm aware, because this has to happen behind the scenes. The discussions have to happen. When I say behind the scenes, there must be negotiations, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not aware that is happening.
Dr. Dylan Remy, you mentioned Mr. Ho-Choi Charles as presenting on behalf of the PDP. In what context would you?
No. When the bill was the autonomy bill, when it was presented, to Trinidad and Tobago. No, sorry. When the Joint Select Committee's report was presented, people had opportunities to put in what they would like to see change when the bill is debated. And as far as I'm aware, recommendations were made by Mr. Augustine and Mr. Ho-Choi Charles. Mr. Ho-Choi Charles representing his party, and Mr. Augustine then representing the PDP.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Yeah.
So, Dr. Dylan Remy, when you're saying that it needs to be pushed by Tobago, I'm not clear on what you mean by that within the context of how a constitution is amended according to our rules. Because you are right, you're going to need the opposition's assistance in this. So is it that you're talking about Tobago courting the opposition and courting the current administration separately in terms of the importance of the bill? Is that what you mean?
I mean that when the Joint Select Committee presented its report, there were consultations in Trinidad and also in Tobago. At that point in time, people had an opportunity to say what they wanted differently. as far as I'm aware, the UNC has mainly talked about is Tobago happy with this bill? Because that is what their concerns were. Was there sufficient consultation with Tobago for you to be presenting this bill to the parliament? Is Tobago happy with it? That, as far as as far as I understand, was their main concern about the bill. I didn't hear them say anything about they didn't want this and they didn't want that. They were mainly concerned about what was Tobago's response to the bill. So why I'm saying that there needs to be negotiation, it is in Tobago's interest that this bill be passed. And therefore, I am saying that it is Tobago interest that they speak to both sides, talk to the PNM and talk to, because the bill is no longer on joint, there's no longer a joint select committee concerning the bill. So there have to be negotiations at the level of both the PNM and because of the PNM responsible for bringing back the bill. But if they bring back the bill and the UNC's position is the same, the bill will not pass. So this
who should be driving this in Tobago then? Who in Tobago should be driving this
My
move?
understanding is that currently the PDP, the leaders, the elected members in Tobago, that's why I'm saying this. When the bill was brought initially, or when the discussion, it happened with a forum of parties. In other words, it was not just, it was the PNM, it was the whoever was in opposition then, because the PDP did not exist then. When the legislation came initially, when the bill came from Tobago initially, it was presented by a group of parties in Tobago. Ideally, it should be a group of parties again. In other words, the people who are not, plus people like Dr. Varnish James, who has been involved at every level. And I know Dr. Varnish James was there when the Joint Select Committee was meeting and was there as a part of the group that met. So the group in Tobago, as far as I'm concerned, they are elected members right now, and they should be pushing it, in my understanding. But it's not exclusive to them.
Dr.
Right
James,
now,
do you agree with that?
Civil society is pushing it, and as far as I know, the other parties are wanting it to happen.
Dr. James, do you agree with that approach by Dr. Delrami?
Well, I think the best approach for Tobago is for its government here, meaning the THA, to organize a proper, broad, far-reaching consultation among Tobagonians to address the question of what the real issues are and what the proper solutions are. It is difficult to see how negotiations with Trinidad could be organized outside of the THA taking the lead. So that's the way I think we ought to really be thinking about this. But the content has to be addressed here in Tobago, because I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding in Trinidad and a lot of misunderstanding in Tobago as well about what the fundamental issues are and what the real problems are that must be solved and how they must be solved. So we need a proper discussion about this, about national constitution reform as well in that context.
I know Dr. Delrami has to leave. So me just ask one question before you have to leave, Dr. Delrami. Do you think anything would have changed or should have changed since the transition of Mr. Augustine from PDP to TPP, given that sort of all those issues that came up when Mr. Duke and Mr. Augustine had their falling out? Because when the PDP was contributing to the bill, they were a unit, but now they're not.
I cannot answer that, I cannot answer that, Paul. I really don't know, because my understanding is that issues related to Tobago are issues related to Tobago, in the sense of there should be, I think, what you think should happen in terms of the relationship between Tobago and Trinidad. I do not know that what has happened with Mr. Duke and Mr. Augustine in terms of the split. I do not know whether that would affect how the current chief secretary views that relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, which is what we are talking about. And as a result, I don't know if that split would have affected how they would, or how he, as the leader of the current assembly, whether they have any, whether it would be any different. Because there are some fundamental things. For instance, one of the big issues, as far as I'm concerned, is the ability for Tobago to make its own, to legislate for itself over the things that they have the jurisdiction over right now. And right now, they have jurisdiction over certain things, but the cabinet can easily overturn it because there's a clause that says, subject to whatever section in the cabinet. That means that if the secretary of any of the secretaries could say something about Tobago that they want to happen in Tobago, and it could be overridden by a minister in the cabinet. That's the current Assembly Act, and that has to change.
Thanks for being with us, Maria. We know you have to leave, but we hope to have you back in a more substantive way.
I'm prepared to be back. I have been pushing that we need to have this discussion nationally, because one of the things that I did not want is for this discussion to be happening just before a national election. And unfortunately, this is what is happening now, because we're in the 4th session. Next session is the 5th session. And at least if it happens now rather than then, because each time it becomes a political football between the parties in Trinidad, and that's unfortunate. It should not happen this time. I'm not sure if Dr. James will agree with me, but the situation is that this has to happen in sober times for discussion. It cannot happen in the times when we're looking at who will win and who will lose if such and such a thing is done, because Tobago's interest is not served at that point in time.
I was going to suggest then that eliminates the opposition from the discussion, but I'll hold my tongue.
The opposition cannot be eliminated from the discussion unless we want to go outside the current constitution. We Trinidad and Tobago, and there's a Trinidad and Tobago parliament. The constitution is changed in the parliament.
Yes.
And it has to have the opposition support. Yeah.
Understood. Thanks so much. Have a great day, Maria.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Senator.
Dr. James, do you agree with that this session is critical as opposed to the 5th session, which puts it in closer proximity to the election, and it has a greater chance of being a political football? Or is it going to be a political football anyway?
Well, it will be a political football anyway. I think, as you know, the best environment in which public education takes place on almost any matter is in a political campaign for office in the current Caribbean space that we are operating in. But I think it's at any time. I think one of the great disservice that was done to the people of the country by the current administration in Tobago is that from January last year, when we agreed to prosecute the issue of autonomy, nothing was done and nothing has been done to date. At any time the country takes up the issue of constitutional reform, it's vital time, because constitutional reform is important to Trinidad and Tobago's development, including Trinidad's economic diversification. And it's critical to any progress Tobago could make in getting out of the 140-year mess we've found ourselves in economically. That requires an improvement in our capacity to make relevant, sound policy. And that can't be done in the current constitutional arrangements we have in the country or in Tobago. So we should begin the conversation tomorrow morning. It's good you are beginning it here today. This is a very good thing. And we need to widen the conversation and have the whole country in a proper discussion about the importance of sound policy making and therefore proper constitutional design in allowing the country to make progress going forward. I mean, Paul, we've been stagnant. The country has been growing. The economy of Trinidad and Tobago has been growing at just under 2% per year, the GDP per capita of the country, since 1960. Growing at that rate, you will never achieve the goal that the country keeps repeating about becoming a developed country, because remember, those developed countries are competing too, and they are moving ahead. So growing at 2%, you're not in the game. For us to get into the game, we need to change the way we make policies so we could make more effective policies to restructure our economy, upgrade our sociology, upgrade our governance arrangements, and in that context, have a chance to grow at the pace required to catch up with the world. So where we are now, we need the conversation immediately. We can't wait until
Dr. James,
2025.
do you expect though? Do you expect though that conversation will reach anywhere in light of the current political situation, especially where Tobago, for all intents and purposes, may very well be the battleground to decide who retains power after the next election? Do you expect that conversation to really generate any much interest now, even with the opposition, who clearly feels that maybe in their interest to change the constitution to get get the configuration to change? Do you expect anything to happen positive with regards to that?
Yeah, well, there are many political forces on the ground in Tobago that's interested in this issue, and all of us will get into the discussion, into the activism required to move the agenda forward. So I think that alone has to be calculated as a critical element that could move the agenda forward. It is not just Farley and his team, or even the PNM. There are other people lobbying for this kind of change because we are aware of its critical significance. I mean, next year, 2024, is 140 years since the economy of Tobago collapsed. We've never recovered. This is 140 years later, and we have never been able to build an alternative to the collapsed sugar economy. So today, we are 80% dependent, 82% dependent after the collapse of Tobago's economy last year. We are 82% dependent on the Trinidad economy to pay our way in the world. That was the same reason we were tied to Trinidad in the first place in 1884, in 1889. So, these are deep-seated issues in Tobago. People know they are important, and people rally, people responded in 2021 when we went to them and said, time to deal with this issue properly. That's why we removed the PNM. And we are in the same boat today, and we'll continue that fight until we get that sorted out. And let me say again, it is critical that you don't think of this as a Tobago issue. I don't agree with Maria on that at all. This is not a Tobago issue. This is a national issue, and for that matter, a regional issue. Tobago, Trinidad, and the Caribbean, the English Caribbean anyway, cannot make any progress in catching up with and developing in the global system until we, as individual countries and as elements, local government included, in these countries, reform the way we organize our governments so that everybody could be involved in the decision-making processes.
I agree it's a national issue, but do you think the national population is as invested as they should be to drive the current administration to the type of prominence this should have, given what you've just said? I see that in the context of, earlier this year I went to the UK, and we met with some of the parliamentarians there and asked the same question, because they're having the same kind of discussion related to devolution with England, England, Britain, and Northern Ireland, Wales, etc. And they are encouraging the same kinds of challenges, ironically, in terms of now they have a different system where the other entities can make laws, but they have a kind of clause where the laws had to be approved by Big Boss anyway. You understand? And the laws can't be in contravention to what the laws are in Britain. So and then the issues of how we're going to take care of ourselves while we go through a transition period to full autonomy have come into play. Because when you now start taking and making all the decisions, in most cases, you can't fully take care of yourself economically. The issues of just like in Trinidad and Tobago, of if we had access to the revenue coming from the oil streams in the ocean, in the North Sea, etc., as opposed to being controlled by the British Parliament, Westminster, as has happened in Trinidad and Tobago conversation about Tobago and the waters of Tobago, and if they were able to monetize those waters and have those revenues for themselves. All those things are very similar in the conversation, but they're very, very complex issues of leadership. One, to me, is primarily about leadership on both sides or on all sides, because it's not just two entities taking part here. It's more than two entities, not just the PNM and the TPP. There are other stakeholders that are critical to this discussion. And who champions a sober discussion to move it forward, as opposed to it becoming highly political and highly volatile?
Well, you know, Paul, all of us have to be in the conversation. Let me make two comments on that. I think first, the media has a role to play and has not played as good a role as it ought to play in pushing the issue. So your question, the answer to your first question is no, we're not as engaged as a society should be in this matter, given its importance for our future, first of all. But Tobago has a smarter answer on the matter of resource sharing and so on than the Scottish and the Welsh have in Britain. We're not talking about getting a share of the oil and gas north of Tobago. That's not the conversation. At least I don't think that's the sensible conversation Tobago should have. And I've warned the society on innumerable occasions that that's the wrong answer. The correct answer is Tobago needs an adequate share of the national expenditure pool. On the recurrent budget, we are due the same treatment as every other citizen. That was the answer we gave in the Dispute Resolution Commission report. But on the development budget, a per capita answer can't be the right answer until you take into account the geographical space of the country, whatever resources are in there, the structure. So once you get Tobago the right boundaries, it will change the sharing of the development budget, not the recurrent budget. And you change the share to deal with the economic potential that you have in this space. Even if all the oil and gas is mined and sent to Port of Spain to continue the industrial development down there, that's fine by Tobago, in my view, because you don't want too many of these dirty industries in an environment where you're trying to promote clean tourism. So it doesn't make sense for Tobago to say, come, give me my own share of the oil and gas, let me set up my own factories in Tobago. That's the wrong answer. The right answer is clean up the way we allocate the development budget so that you don't go on with this vulgarity of $400 million a year to diversify and develop a Tobago economy out of the state it is in. It's the national interest. It is in the national interest for Tobago's tourism potential to be industrialized along the lines of what you see. Me and you agreed on this before. What you see going on in Cayman and Bermuda. And the Bahamas is trying some of it. That's the direction in which Tobago has to go with education and healthcare and all these other things. And that's the direction in which the country has to go to diversify. The nation had the right answer with the Cuba Hospital, the Cuba Hospital.
But I will tell you that's not the impression. That philosophy is not the impression I hear Mr. Augustine seemingly espousing when I hear him comment on these issues.
Well, that doesn't say much. That shouldn't say much to the country. Mr. Augustine and Mr. Duke have displayed an enormous amount of incompetence, so you can't put on them the responsibility to really clarify.
But they are critical to the discussion, so we can't eliminate presuming without a document or a specific presentation what their mindset is and how they think this should evolve. Because I
live here in Tobago.
Paul, allow me to ask Dr. James a direct question. Dr. James, allow me to ask you a direct question. Do you think that such a move that you've been espousing can realistically happen with Fali Augustine or with Watson Duke at the helm in Tobago?
But I don't think so. And I said so in August last year that these two
Right.
guys have demonstrated. It didn't take me more than 6 months to determine that they're completely inadequate and incompetent to deal with the issues Tobago must deal with. But they are not. They are young. They are incompetent. They're not the senior leaders of the people of Tobago. All
Right.
of us, not and there are only two. Remember, it's my proposition to the country is you need to set up the system so everybody could participate. So we are then in a position to filter out silly ideas, right? And filter in good ideas and make good judgment. So this is not about Watson and Farley and so on. This is about the opportunity for all of us to participate in a proper conversation. Unfortunately, it is true that the current administration ought to listen to the people of Tobago and set up the conversation with the country, not just with the PNM in Trinidad or the UNC in Trinidad. Tobago ought to take the lead, and the THA can do it in organizing a proper conversation about the direction in which the constitution of the country should go and the direction in which the reform of the THA should go. We keep talking about this as Tobago's autonomy, but what we're really dealing with is national constitution reform to enable sound policy to allow the country to develop. That's
Yeah.
not a matter for Watson and Farley.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a hard sell right now, but I will follow the discussion and certainly see where it goes. But it's a
No,
hard sell
you didn't try to sell it, Pendel. I mean, you're going to join the effort to sell it. We tried to sell it back in 1970. Look at the enormous amount of revolution we created in the country.
Right.
That success was in the fundamental changes taking place to race relations and all sorts of things. Pervasive. The country's never seen that much.
You know,
Everybody needs to be on the same page.
I'm going to ask what maybe a strange question. And it's a strange question, and I apologize to rephrasing the question because it seems to separate Trinidadians from Tobagonians. Do you think the average Trinidadian sees the benefit of this evolution of the relationship? Because to me, the average Trinidadian is not really business happy with the way things are. You understand?
No, I don't think so. And I think that's the reason I said back in January last year that the biggest development project for the THA is the project to prosecute autonomy, because we're going to have to spend $50-60 million to educate Trinidadians about what is in the national interest, not with respect to Tobago alone, but with respect to decision making in Trinidad. You are part of a parliament in Trinidad today that runs an autocratic system of government in which the cabinet, for the most part, is unfettered, unsupervised. There is no majority PNM outside of the cabinet that can regulate and evaluate Rowley's behavior and the cabinet's behavior in the way you see it in Britain. It can't. It's impossible with the current structure of the parliament. It's too small to do it in any case. You just don't have enough non-executive PNM members, to say nothing of the opposition. The PNM or any party in power, because it happened under the USA as well, any party in power, the executive of the parliament controls the whole legislative process. That's a kingdom you're setting up here.
The late Dr. Brinsley Samuel said so in many interviews I had with him. He said, the Westminster system foisted upon us works in the UK because of the size of the parliament.
Exactly.
Which means a backbencher cadre doesn't have to take direction from the prime minister if they don't agree with something. Exactly. But in our case, it's so small that if you deviate from the prime minister's directive, you can be sanctioned, and
you
so
hand the government to the opposition.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't work as well here.
Well, it doesn't work here at all. We simply end up with autocratic government. There's no way the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago today.
So what is the motivation for those parties, what is the motivation, Dr. James, for those parties to want to change? Because autocratic behavior is intoxicating.
Well, it is us in the population, all the rest of us, as we proved in 1970, 51 days. It is all the rest of us who have an understanding of the stake we have in real development that must wake up and say, it is not, never mind that a party may love autocracy. As we've seen here, once they get power, we saw it in this dispensation. Don't forget the campaign we ran. I was front and center that campaign, and this was the case we were making. Once Farley took power, he walked away from it. So whenever you are in power, you love autocracy, but it doesn't work for the country.
But it extends. But you talk about the population waking up. It extends past what Richard has described in terms of the leaders of a particular party loving the intoxicated power base to their followers, their supporters, because the supporters feel, by example, my party in power, and I also have the power by extension. So there's no motivation to change the status quo.
Well, we proved that wrong. That's a principle people enunciate. But remember, in 2021, we proved that wrong. The PNM didn't want any change. Like Maria said, they love what Rowley has in the parliament. We took a different case to the population, including PNM members. And we got 16,000 Tobagonians, including a lot of PNM people, to come out and say, we need the system to change.
But that's Tobago. Tobago is vastly different to Trinidad in terms of mindset.
Okay, fair enough, but the public education has not been done but once in Trinidad on this matter. And when it was put
and I think to add to that, I think one of the issues is that while you may have taken a convincing argument to those 16,000 Tobagonians, they also had the motivation of rejecting a particular person, when you know that, as a great motivation inside in terms of the PNM. So it's not necessarily that the status quo shifted because of your advocacies, because of, well, I do what I person.
But when you're campaigning, you know, Paul, you bring everything, you throw everything at the opposition, you throw the kitchen sink. But I live here and I can tell you what I meet every day I go about. Everywhere I go, people saying this is the right case. Keep making it. We're behind you. So people meet me in the banks, in the supermarkets, in the pharmacies, on the street, stop me as I drive in, flag me down, and this is the right case. Keep pushing it. Intellectuals tell me so, farmers tell me so. Also,
I don't want to rub it in your face, sir, but you admitted to standing behind somebody you thought would be a great spear of the arrow, who proved not to be such, in your own words, a great leader, you know. And I'm not saying the outcome may not have been what is best for Tobago. I already don't know. But I'm saying that everyone can sometimes make an error in judgment on any particular side.
Every election is like that, though. Every time you go to the polls and you back a set of people to do something in the structures that we have in place now, you are taking a gamble that people will not enjoy autocratic power enough not to want to keep the commitments they made. So far across the region, that has been the wrong gamble. So what we're learning is that you really have to push the agenda the way we did in 1960.
But maybe that's how we socialize. Maybe we all are just socialized in a way in Trinidad Tobago that we say one thing, but when we get a taste of power, we turn into something else.
It's we who own the country, you know. It's not the autocrats who own the country. We are the owners. We are the ones who have to get up and say, okay, what going on so far not good enough.
But everybody says they want to democratize and they want to devolve, and when they get there, this really feeling nice, boy. King for a day is a nice place to be.
But Paul, I'll tell you something. I understand Dr. James's passion, you know, and I also admire his walking away from clearly a situation that was not right and that he considered terrible for Tobago. I admire him for that. And I understand why he wants to push this, but I want to add to that too, Dr. James, that Trinidadians largely remain a very selfish, self-centered people now. So I mean, I'm hearing you, and I know that your appeal is for us in the media to assist in pushing that agenda, but I don't know. Trinidad, it's wearing me down. I have to tell you.
But you know, and I know you, I know Paul, I know many Indian people in Trinidad, great friends and so on. I don't know none of the selfish ones. So our business is to find a coalition of the willing who really want to make change. And usually what we've proven over the history of the region usually from slavery to now, from strict indenture to now, when those who are interested in going down the road where the science suggests we should go, when they wake up and begin to push, everybody gets educated and everybody changes. We saw that with Colarians. We saw that across the history.
But those always happen catalyzed by a great social disruption.
Indeed.
It don't just happen by evolution or thought. There's something that happens in society that pushes people to the breaking point where we say, we ain't with this no more.
Indeed.
It's not just by natural evolution of thought and philanthropy and, oh my God, we need to evolve our thinking and our approaches. It always has happened when people reach the breaking point because of unmet needs and selfish leaders or self-serving leaders.
Indeed, and that's an old story that we've understood a long time in the social sciences. Revolutionary social ideas that are scientific only ride on political action. So we know that. And I agree with you entirely on that. But who is responsible for the political action? Those who think they know, those who think they understand where we ought to go, those who think they know the science. They are the ones who have to come forward. And my point to you is all my credibility in Tobago rests on the fact that as an economist, as a development economist, I go to my people with all the science. I don't water it down. I just go and lay it out to them. And I meet all kinds of people in Tobago who tell me all the time, I understand what you're saying, so keep fighting. I go join the fight, keep fighting. And I think in the next election in Tobago, first of all, Farley and his team will lose in a landslide. And the question is who they're going to lose to. It's either they're going to lose to the PNM or they're going to lose to another outfit that comes with the right message. Both the PNM and Farley and them could lose.
But you see a landslide, but I still hear a lot of support for Mr. Augustine and his team. I'm not saying they won't lose some ground. I think they will lose some ground, but I don't think it's going to be a landslide. But
a lot sounds plentiful when we are not all in the campaign and the campaign ain't launched yet. We put that to the PNM. The PNM spent almost billions here in 2021 and lost in a landslide. You never get the landslide until you get what you're talking about, which is accumulation of learning by the society about what's in their best interest. So it will come. And remember, this is a long, long story. It may not change when I'm alive, but one of these days, from the long march of our history, it will change.
Do you think Mr. Duke still has political capital in Tobago? I mean, he lost in Trinidad, and then he is extending the olive branch to Mr. Augustine, who doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem like he's going to answer that. It seems a little convenient. It seems a little convenient for Mr. Duke at this time to be extending an olive branch.
Watson Duke is finished politically. I can't say it any other way.
I'm not asking you, to asking Dr. James.
Paul
cannot say it any other way.
Senator and a wise, highly skilled senator, and he knows the answer to that question even before he asks. The answer is no. Watson Duke is finished. Look at the experience of we never ostracize our people, but authorities can never win power in Tobago again after that. Once the people decide you don't know what they're doing, you're not qualified to handle our business. And the behavior of Watson and Farley last year will ultimately condemn them to disqualification in holding political office here. No matter what you see happening to the sycophants for Farley now, when election time come wrong, I hope to be around. I will campaign. I know a whole lot of the prominent people who campaiged last year who tell me already, I campaigning and I'm not campaigning for them.
So who you campaigning for?
Let me ask this question. Before you answer Paul, Dr. James, let me ask this question. Because I think what you're saying was demonstrated also too with the PNM, how they were swept out of power because of leadership at issues, right? Do you see the current leadership of the PNM as being able to reverse what happened in the last THA election?
I don't think so. I don't think, quite frankly, either in Trinidad or in Tobago, I don't think the PNM has clarified for the society that it understands what our problems are and where we ought to be going. I think the reason the UNC is getting traction of some sort in Trinidad is because of that incompetence by Rowley and his team. They seem completely unable to grapple with the fundamental issues we are talking about, including the issues regarding the way to restructure the economy, of which the governance element is a big part. So put to the test here in Tobago against the background of our history, against the background of the desire of our people for real freedom in the sense of a way to participate in the governance process from day to day. Faced with those demands, the PNM has said we don't want to change the rules. Rowley said so, and the PNM in Tobago has behaved that way. And as far as I could tell as a scientist, they faced with a real campaign here. The PNM cannot win any election here. It's just a question of the capacity of the society to create the political instrument required to defeat both the PNM and Farley, who has also demonstrated that he doesn't understand the thing. You know, and Paul knows, there is no excuse for Farley to sit down on the autonomy issue from January to now, except that he loves the taste of autocratic power. I mean, he alone destroyed the construction industry here last year, practicing autocracy. Tobagonians won't forget that.
Right. Interesting.
I don't know, but I am waiting with bated breath to see the evolution of a leader in this country who has not displayed the passion for the taste of the power structure as it is now.
True.
I'm waiting for it.
True. I know.
You're waiting for them to emerge. You're waiting for them to emerge, Paul.
Some of it have shown glimmers of it while in opposition.
It's trust but verify. You know that you have to change the system in order to get a different behavior, because you need the oversight. You need the mechanisms of control.
I agree with it. That to me is where we need to go. Not necessarily thinking that person is going to evolve, but evolving the structures to manage those people's sometimes thirst for unbridled power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that to me, and I think we need to strengthen those checks and balances so they can't circumvent them, because I've seen many attempts of persons trying to circumnavigate checks and balances.
Exactly. I just want to quote here that Lloyd used to make the point to me in Tapia that you're saying Daga and myself and Manswell and so on are autocrats. Well, the challenge for the society is to create the institutions that could control autocratic behavior. Isn't that what Jefferson tried when he said, we want a strong executive, but we don't want a king? That's the same issue.
And you know what the response is? If you want to make a change, why do you run for power yourself?
That's well,
you want to talk from the side, and you don't want to face the electorate.
I campaign. I do not. Everywhere I go into Tobago, I have to sit down and listen to 2 long hours of lectures from the public, from people. It doesn't matter that I'm quote unquote Professor James. People put me sit down and they lecture me. I campaign actively for change in the society, but I have learned, as you know, Paul, from the experience of the society as well. When you put an intellectual like Eric Williams in power, even when you have a CLR James, the autocratic behavior plus the power of the intellectual cripples the society. And you can't make any progress. So my interest is in development. My interest is not in holding personal power. So my job is, let me go around as Professor James in Tobago and clarify for everybody I meet, including in political campaigns, exactly what we have to be doing to develop Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago. And when we take on that agenda, that's political activity. That's political leadership as well.
I think we need to move up from 41 constituencies.
Absolutely.
That's what I think needs to happen.
You need about 95.
I think you need to move up from 41 constituencies.
Patrick Manning was going in that direction, and we crucify him and crucify him for it.
I think moving up from 41 will help democratize it even more.
I agree with that arithmetic, Paul. I think you need about 95. You need to keep.
When you might be 95, but it certainly should be under 61.
But let me say what the arithmetic is. You've got to keep the cabinet at 15 or less. That means you already need somewhere in the region of about 30 PNM, say, or UNC on the winning side 30 non-executive members on the winning side in order to set up oversight, effective oversight of the cabinet. And once you take that, that already means that you need double 45 in order to set up a parliament that could work effectively. Because you remember, you're not talking about handing the government to the opposition. You're talking about policing, effective policing of the cabinet. So the numbers will get you up to where I am.
And I think it will eliminate the safe seat paradigm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But people wouldn't be going to the parliament to be in the cabinet as they do now. People would be going to the parliament to make law.
Yes.
You will see the cabinet, yeah. Exactly.
And may I suggest, Paul, that you need to reform the Senate as well. The country must.
I agree with that. I fully agree with that. I agree with that.
Senate and elect the senators and give them oversight responsibility as well.
I could live with that.
This conversation reminds me of the conversation that was taking place during the Manning regime. I remember him talking this type of language in terms of expanding the Senate and so on, and bringing in the heads of the municipal corporations as part of the Senate. You remember that? You all remember that?
Yeah, you would like that.
But he never got either the arithmetic of the House or the arithmetic of the Senate right. And he surely never understood the real role of a Senate in a country like Trinidad and Tobago.
Checks and balance.
The spatial responsibilities of a Senate that including men like Paul. This current senatorial structure doesn't have any resemblance to what that must be.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where the UK House of Lords works, because it's so vast. You know, that it provides expertise and checks and balance.
Although, Paul, we in the Caribbean should not be looking at the House of Hereditary Lords or anything like that.
I don't think so. I don't think that's an option. The word Lord gives me shivers.
Yeah, exactly. I think we must elect
God Almighty.
We must elect them.
Human lords, no lords.
Hand them the power of representation. We must hand them quite clear responsibilities, including responsibilities for managing senior appointments of judges, and so on. But the critical responsibility is to look after the spatial development of the society. That's the protection of minority rights through senatorial design. We've understood this for a long time. This is no news anymore. But we have to have a proper conversation in the country about all of these elements.
Yeah. Dr. James, thanks for being with us this morning. Always a great conversation.
You're welcome, Paul.
You're great internet.
Thank you, Dr. James. Good chatting with you again.
Always good.
Yeah. Of course, Dr. Vanna James reminds me a lot about Dr. Morgan Job, right? Without the narcissism.
Well, I think without the insults.
Yeah, well, because Dr. Job couldn't help it. But I remember a morning, Richard, I'm sure you remember that, when we had Dr. James come in with Dr. Job there. You remember how combative that morning was? I can't forget these things, you know. Oh, God.
Have a great day. Be safe. Look, it's going to be hot outside again today, like yesterday. And I don't know. As everybody says, I'm waiting for the electricity bill at the end of this cycle.
It's nice and cool where I am. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Remember to let go and let God.
All right. So have a fantastic day wherever you are. And remember to smile and laugh. It's great for your health.
All right, gentlemen, do have a great one. Talk to you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Let's get into our news brief, if you said.
This is your